What's up, everybody? This is Phil with Phil Up on Sports. Today we're going to talk Buckeyes. We're going to discuss a topic that was really hot about a month ago. It's cooled off a little bit, but we're talking about basketball head coach Thad Matta. About a month ago, from about the beginning of the season till the win over Kentucky, there was all kinds of talk of it's time for Matta to go. People were upset with him and thought that he should be fired. There was just a lot of talk that I thought was premature. I thought people were overreacting. And during that time, I was telling people that we've gotten so spoiled with Thad Matta that we forget about the past. So what I want to do today is show you some things about Thad Matta, and then we'll talk about before Thad Matta. So as far as Thad Matta goes, at Ohio State, he won 312 games, lost 102. That's 75% of his games. He's won 68% of his games inside the Big Ten. They've been in the NCAA tournament every year but two. And the first year they were ineligible for the tournament, and the other time they didn't make the NCAA, they won the NIT tournament. And then, of course, there's maybe this season, which is sort of on the fence right now, whether or not they're an NCAA tournament team. They probably need a few more quality wins to give themselves a shot. In 6 of his 12 years, they've won either the conference tournament or the regular season title, and 3 of those times, they won both of them combined. He's never coached a team that didn't win 20 games, and that includes his time at Butler and at Xavier. He has a fantastic coaching tree. You have John Gross at Illinois. You have Alan Major at Charlotte. You have R.G. Miller at Dayton. Sean Miller at Arizona. Brad Stevens was at Butler and now is the coach of the Boston Celtics. And then you have his predecessor who coached under Coach Matta, Brandon Miller, who's at Butler. So those are just a few things on Thad Matta. Those are real basic. We didn't go deep into his coaching record or his seasons or anything like that. But those are just basic things to give you a thought of who we have as a coach. So now we're going to take a step back. Now, I'm 33 years old, so Buckeye basketball really was something I started getting into at about the age of 8, so right around 1990. And at that time, Randy Ayers had just become the coach at Ohio State. He was an Ohio kid, got the job after going to Miami University, and his record at Ohio State was 232 wins and 124 losses. That's 53% win percentage. He had 2 really, really good teams while he was the coach. In 90-91 and 91-92 season, they were teams that really made me love OSU basketball. My favorite player of all time, my favorite Buckeye player of all time, was on that team, and that was Chris Gent. Everything I did, the way I played, I guess, was like Chris Gent. I threw my body all over the floor. I just love Chris Gent. So that really doesn't have anything to do with Randy Ayers, but that was on my mind. So anyway, those 2 teams finished in the AP top 5. No other team that Ayers coached at Ohio State finished in the AP pool. And not only that, no team other than those 2 teams started the season in the AP top 25. They lost more than 15 games 4 times. To give you a little comparison, a Thad Matta coached team from Butler, Xavier, Ohio State has never lost more than 13 games. And Ayers' teams lost 15 or more games 4 times. They lost 13 2 other times. So, after 4 bad years at the end, all losing seasons, from 93 to 97, he was let go. I should back up a little bit and remind people that those teams that were really good, that had my favorite player, Chris Gent, they also had Jimmy Jackson on those teams, who was an All-American and They lost to Jordan one time in North Carolina. They were really good teams, and the other team lost to Michigan. So they were really, really good teams. So after Ayers comes in, or after Ayers leaves, Jim O'Brien is inserted as the head coach. O'Brien came from Boston College, and the big news with O'Brien coming, well, along with O'Brien coming, was that he was bringing a point guard with him named Scooney Penn. Scooney had to sit out his first year due to transfer rules. Jim O'Brien's record at Ohio State was 133-80, which was 60% win percentage. Later, that was changed to 61 wins and 67 losses. We'll talk about that in a minute. In O'Brien's first year, they went 8-22. That team did at least feature Freshman of the Year Michael Redd. His second year, they went to the Final Four. They had Scooney Penn and Michael Redd on that team. They were a really good team. Michael and Scooney played off each other really well. They had guys that played rules really well. They were a really tough team, and they went on a postseason roll that was a lot of fun to watch until they lost to UConn in the Final Four. And then the following season, they won the Big Ten, and then won the Big Ten in 01 and 02, both regular season and tournament. So they won, the year they went to the Final Four, they didn't win the Big Ten, but then the following 2 years they did and won a conference tourney. The last 2 years that O'Brien was at Ohio State, they lost 15 and 16 games respectively. And O'Brien was fired after those 2 years, and the NCAA made OSU forfeit pretty much all the games from the 4 previous years. There was one season where they changed their record, I think, to 1-11, and the other one was 0-1, and then 2 seasons they were 0-0 because they took the wins and losses from them. O'Brien later admitted to then OSU athletic director Andy Geiger that he had given money, $6,000 in a loan, to a player's mom or recruit's mom, and this was after he had signed with Ohio State, but he actually didn't end up at Ohio State because the NCAA ruled he was ineligible because he had played professionally overseas and was paid. So he actually never ended up at OSU. And then you had the issue with Boban Solovich where he was being helped by some boosters and somebody basically ratted them all out. And O'Brien was completely in the wrong, so I'm not saying ratting them out was a bad thing, but O'Brien just did some things that should have never been done. The NCAA gave him a 5-year show cause, which after him filing a lawsuit on Ohio State, the NCAA gave him just a 2-year show cause, and Ohio State was put on 3 years probation. So it's at that point, after he's fired, that Ohio State goes looking for a coach, and they hire Thad Matta from Xavier. I think the thing we need to remember here is that I think as OSU fans, we've just become spoiled. We're used to winning so consistently on the football field that when Matta came and started giving us this sustained success at Ohio State with the basketball program, that now we just expect that it's always going to be that way, when we forget that Matta took over a program that was in shambles and had never had consistent success, at least since I was alive. And I just don't understand sometimes our logic for thinking that we need to be in the Final Four every year and all this stuff. I don't like the talk of blue bloods with Kentucky and Kansas and Duke and North Carolina and all that stuff. I don't really like that talk, but I think we need to understand that those are true basketball schools. Those are schools that absolutely have the expectation every year that they're going to be in the Final Four. And you could look at a school like Duke with Mike Krzyzewski where he has a top recruiting class every single year. Yet look at all the times they've been bounced from the tournament early, or Kansas has been bounced by really low seeds in the tournament. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to every school. So I think we've gotten to where we're expecting too much, and we need to realize that things changed for OSU basketball when Matta came, and they changed in a really, really good way. In his first year, even with the sanctions, they won 20 games, and I'm pretty sure all Buckeye basketball fans remember that they ended that year beating undefeated number 1 Illinois at home. That game, I think, made everybody realize what we had and what we might have going forward once the sanctions were released. And then we had the national championship game. We've had Final Fours. We've had Sweet 16 appearances and Elite 8 appearances. And I think now what we've run into is that people want to critique Matta really, really hard down to the nitty gritty. And there are plenty of things that people critique him for that I think are fair, as far as end of half and end of game plays, out of timeouts, the lack of use of the bench, losing in-state kids to other schools, players not panning out, or players not developing once in the program. I think those are all things that are fair to complain about and argue about. But the problem with it is we still forget what we had before. So to me, I always, every time I want to complain about it, I just remind myself of what I used to watch and what I'm getting to watch now, and that I should just be happy with it for now. I think if things got to where Matta was having losing seasons, things like that, then I think the tune changes. But I think we're really lucky to have Coach Matta. I think as fans, sometimes we just need to look in the mirror and maybe look in the past a little bit, and realize that what Matta's doing at a school where football is king 365 days a year, every second of the day, is pretty awesome. And we've had some seasons in the last 10 years where our football program and our basketball program were hitting on all cylinders, and that's been a lot of fun to watch. So I'm happy with Matta. I do think this is just a personal opinion, but I do think if you don't like Matta, hang in there, because I don't think the leg is getting better, and I sometimes wonder how much longer he really wants to do this with having to go on the road and recruit and all the traveling and all the being on his feet. I'm not sure his health is great. I don't have inside information on that or know what's really going on, but you can just tell sometimes that he looks uncomfortable. And so I wonder how much longer he'll stay in coaching, or at least at Ohio State. But I think for now, we just need to be happy with what we have, get behind him. Let's see how this group right now that he has develops, because there's a lot of freshmen on this team and a lot of guys that didn't play a lot of minutes before. So I'm excited to see how they develop, and then the guys coming in next year, how they help. And I think this team could be really, really good next year, and especially the year after, because I think a lot of these guys are going to be there for 3 or 4 years. So I think we should relax, watch the games, have fun. That's all I have on Thad Matta. I'll give you a heads up. Next Tuesday is National Signing Day. I will definitely do a video that day and give you some heads up on some of the recruits that we get, and maybe guys we missed out on, or guys that switch on National Signing Day, along with maybe some other hits on big recruits that go other places. We probably won't talk about the school up north much because nobody cares about them. But as far as that'll be next Tuesday. I'll have that one up in the evening that day after all the recruits have sent in their letters. So that's all I have. Make sure you're sharing, liking, subscribing to the page, And I will see you guys next time. Have a good day.